We're really delighted to welcome the Vice President of Zambia. We don't get very many Vice Presidents at ODI, and when we do, they're not often as well qualified as this one. Guy is an academic, has a PhD in robotics and taught robotics at Oxford. He's been a farmer and an entrepreneur and involved in international agricultural trade. And of course has a long history in Zambian politics and became Vice President about 7 months ago on a 5-year term with a very interesting agenda for how he might pick up issues as Vice President and use that position to change the country. And we're going to hear a bit about that, I think, and then we're going to have David Booth, who leads the large programme on African politics at ODI as discussant. And I think the combination of these two speakers gives us an opportunity to do two things. One is to talk specifically about Zambia and to understand what progress Zambia has made and what the constraints are. But the other is to think about the business of African politics and the business of being Vice President. And it does always seem to me there are two axes in that conversation. And they came very much to the fore when David and I were discussing the paper that Tony Blair did for the African Governance Initiative about what works in Africa. And one axis is competence. I mean, just the competence of government to get things done. And I know that when Tony Blair published his paper, David, you particularly liked that focus on practical implementation. And then the other is doing the politics and what choices you make and how you make them and how you deal with both the people who support you and the people who don't in that process. So any reflections on that would be extremely useful. As usual at ODI, we are on the record. The meeting is being filmed, as you can see. There will be plenty of time for discussion at the end of the presentations. And as usual, I will ask you perhaps to say something rather than just ask questions so that we have a good conversation in the room. And for the people who are watching online, there is also an opportunity to send in questions, and I will receive those on the iPad and be able to feed them into the conversation. So, Mr. Vice President, you can speak for as long as you like, as long as it's not more than 20 minutes. And we're very, very glad to have you here. Thank you for coming.